And this episode of Penn Point starts right now. This episode of Penn Point is brought to you by Busted Tees. Okay, I went to see Paul McCartney in Las Vegas at the big MGM hockey field. And Paul McCartney, not Paul McCartney in Wings, not Paul McCartney formerly of the Beatles, but Paul McCartney. Just said Paul McCartney. And I went, I got beautiful tickets. I was set up by my brother-in-law, who helped me get tickets to Paul McCartney. You might notice I'm not saying Sir Paul McCartney, but I'm saying Paul McCartney, and that's because I'm American. And I just don't understand. I mean, as much as I love England and being in London, and as much as I love doing shows over there, as much as I love the people over there, and as much as I've met Charles, you know, Prince Charles, I don't like using those, is it called honorific? Is that what it's called? Yeah, I don't like using those honorifics. I guess it's not, I guess honorific is also doctor and sir, doctor and mister and stuff, I don't know. Anyway, I don't like saying that the knighthood of England means anything to me, because I don't approve of monarchies. Well, I'm gonna get a lot of people like busting me on Twitter saying, what have you got against monarchies? Because aren't there like a lot of people that don't think monarchies are cool? I mean, I know the Dalai Lama, he digs them, right? But I mean, is it okay to not dig monarchies? So I don't know why Paul McCartney being knighted. I think that Paul McCartney being in the Beatles and writing some of the best pop music and singing some of the best pop music and playing some of the best bass ever done in pop music history is enough. And putting the Sir in front of it cheapens it a little bit, because royalty saying that doesn't mean nearly as much as the millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people who have enjoyed Paul McCartney's music and performance. I'm not gonna say Sir Paul, and I don't say Sir Elton, I don't say Sir Mick. I'm much happier with Keith Richard, who refused to be knighted, and David Bowie, who's not a knight. And by the way, Bob Dylan, not a knight. Okay, we're gonna get to Bob Dylan more later. And Paul McCartney, well, it was wonderful to see him live his dream. And apparently his dream is to play in a band where no one in the audience knows any of the musicians' names except him. It was a very odd moment at the end of the show where he introduced the sound guy, then said there were hundreds of people involved in putting the show on, and then said, how about this band? And said nothing about the four monsters who were on stage with him. And all the musicians were fabulous. But the drummer, and I guess that's okay now. I guess I'm not putting down Paul McCartney, because Paul McCartney knows more about show business in his little finger and more about entertaining and more about everything in his little finger that I'll ever know in my whole life. So these are just mostly questions. And I guess you don't introduce the band. The thing I said about being in a band, no one knows their names, was just a joke. I guess you don't need to say the names of your band members because everybody can go to the web, which I did, and I looked up his drummer, who is Abe Laboriel Jr., who I should have known before. Abe Laboriel Jr., who played with Stink and Katie Lang and a lot of other people. His father, Abe Laboriel, is this Laboriel, probably, maybe? I don't know. I haven't heard it said out loud, except by Jonesy. I don't trust Jonesy, he's our piano player. He knew all about him, of course. His dad is this monster bass player, and he's a monster drummer. I would have paid whatever we paid to see Paul McCartney, $300. I would have paid that just to see Abe Laboriel Jr. play drums and sing. The man is a monster. One of the best performers I've ever seen on stage, and did this incredibly difficult thing where the Ringo parts were, the Ringo drum parts, certain ones, are drilled into our heads with that sound that George Martin got of the real skin drum heads, and really low and deep and rich and beautifully recorded. Boy, George Martin, beautiful job. And Ringo's drumming, although not technically amazing, and although the time is, shall we say, on the Beatles stuff, a little loose, Ringo was a great drummer. And I never understood how you could, and of course, you know, John Lennon made the famous comment when he was asked, is Ringo Starr the best drummer in the world? And John Lennon answered, he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. And it's true that Paul was probably a better drummer in some ways than Ringo. And some of the stuff in the White Album where Paul is playing drums, probably as good as Ringo. But Ringo and Giles Martin, who's also a brilliant producer, George Martin's son, and did all the producing on Love, the Cirque du Soleil show here. Brilliant, genius, and probably Giles Martin has listened to more of the raw tracks of Beatles more times than any other person alive. He knows Beatles stuff inside out. And what he said to me about Ringo's drumming was he's a much better drummer than people give him credit for because he plays songs. He really does play the song. And I don't think I'm not smart enough to understand exactly what Giles Martin meant when he first said that, but seeing Abe Laboriel Jr. play drums, I really understood, because Abe Laboriel Jr. has technical chops like I've never seen. Time just rock solid. He might have had a click going. I don't think so, because they weren't using ear monitors. I don't think he had a click, but it doesn't really make any difference. His time was still rock solid and beautiful, but still played the song and did this incredibly difficult thing, Abe Laboriel Jr. I want to just say his name over and over again, just because Paul didn't. He did this amazing thing where every time your ear was waiting in a Beatles song for a drum fill that you knew inside out, like The End or Sgt. Pepper's, or Day in the Life. Every time you were expecting one of those fills, Abe Laboriel Jr. did it perfectly. Perfectly, you heard it. The sound was beautiful. It was the best drum sound I've ever heard in a hockey rink, which is, I'm not damning with faint praise. The sound was good overall, and that really was good. And he'd also play that, and then the rest of the song would be more complex, more deep, more lush, more in time than the original Beatles songs, but never so you noticed it. You had to really listen to it. And even on Give Peace a Chance, which Paul does like 2 minutes of, it doesn't do the everybody's talking about baggism, shaggism, faggism, dragism, this doesn't do any of that. He just does the all we are saying is Give Peace a Chance. But when they recorded that, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, they recorded it in Toronto with Tommy Smothers on guitar and Timmy, Larry, Rosemary, Tommy Smothers, Bobby Dylan, Derek Taylor, a few other people in there. And they all singing together. And I believe they kind of lost the beats. When they went back, I think they added the bass drum later, and I might be wrong on this. I'm not a Beatles expert, but I think they added the bass, or John Lennon expert, they added the bass drum later. And because the time shifts so much, it always sounded to me like they put a slap back on the bass. Boom, boom, in order to make it feel like it was in time and excuse the fact that it's slipping a little bit and make it so that the bass drum gives it a continuity through. I could be wrong about all of this, but what impressed me, and if I'm wrong about all this, it doesn't matter that it impressed me, was that Abe Laboriel Jr. did that boom, 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 just with a single bass and just perfect, and kept it so it was familiar and also kept the time constant. He was just a monster drummer, and I would go see him anytime. And I guess because you have the web and you can type in Paul McCartney's drummer and Abe Laboriel Jr. just pops up with pictures and everything, you don't really need to introduce them by name in the show. And that's my whole argument. This is my whole argument for why the next time you see the Penn and Teller show at the Penn and Teller Theater, I will not say, my name is Penn Jillette and this is my partner Teller. I will say, my name is Penn Jillette and this is my partner. And then you can go to the web and figure out that it's Teller. Or Abe Laboriel Jr. if I really have my druthers. I want to take a minute to tell you about Busted Tees. It doesn't matter if you're into video games, movies, science fiction, or just wrapping your torso with something weird. Busted Tees literally has you covered. Get it? You may have seen a busted tee or two pop up in movies and TV shows. Now you can grab one for yourself. Head on over to bustedtees.com to find the shirt of your dreams. Your bizarre, hilarious dreams. Enter the promo code Penn Point and receive 10% off your order.